Hi, and welcome back to your Autism Game Plan. I'm Joya Vanderlaan, a family nurse practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, and an autism mom. Today, we're going to talk about echolalia. Echolalia is the habit of children repeating themselves, and they may repeat things that they have heard that people have said to them or that have been on TV or another show that they've watched, and they may repeat it either right away or it may be hours, days, weeks, months later that they repeat these things. So it's very common with children with autism to have this echolalia. There can be many different functions, there can be many different causes, and so we're going to go over a few of those things today. You know, it's interesting because not only do the children, the autistic children, especially with echolalia, echo the actual words, they even tend to mimic or echo the intonation and the expression of what they have heard. And they tend to repeat it back very, very similarly to how they heard it first and in what context they heard it. It doesn't mean that they know what the words or phrases mean, but it does give good hope that they are verbal, they are speaking, and they are using verbal spoken language. You know, of course, if you have been around other children or you've read anything about child development, you know that even typically developing children do have echolalia, and that is how we learn to speak. We repeat what we've heard and we practice it, we rehearse it, we try it out. But many times the echolalia in an autistic child will last beyond the period at which it's normal for a typically developing child. And oftentimes their echolalia is not used in the right context when they're repeating it. Children with autism and even without autism up to a certain age will use echolalia functionally sometimes. So why would they do this? Well, sometimes it's to rehearse something. So they're rehearsing something over and over in their mind, they're repeating it, but instead of it being in their mind, like maybe you and I would do, they're expressing it out loud, they're verbalizing it. They can also use it as a form of stimming, saying something over and over again, especially if they like the way that it feels in their throat or to their tongue, or the vibration that it creates within their sinuses. That may feel good. And sometimes they use it as a form of self-regulation too. So similar to stimming, it feels good. It helps them be calm to say a certain word or make a certain noise over and over and over again. A couple tips on dealing with echolalia in your autistic child. So when Sophie was younger, I wish we would have known more about echolalia. I told you we felt unprepared and overwhelmed. Now I know a little better. But when the child has echolalia, sometimes it's helpful to script for them. So in other words, you don't want to ask them, do you want a glass of water? You would say, I want a glass of water, and hand them the water. Or if they're standing at the door looking like they want to go outside, you don't ask them, do you want to go outside? You ask them, you tell them, I want to go outside. And then you praise them when they repeat that in the right context. So that can be really helpful. One thing, as I mentioned, when Sophie was younger, was she would invert pronouns. And so she would tell us if she wanted a glass of water, for example, she would say, you want a glass of water? And we would say, no, we don't, until we figured out pretty quickly that she was actually switching around the pronouns because that's what she was hearing us say. So she was having echolalia. When a child is having difficulty with language processing, they can exhibit echolalia. And so again, we want to ask why. Is there a way that we can address this based on our why that will help this child to be a more effective communicator? So one thing that we think about very first with anything related to brain processing, right, including the speech processing, is inflammation. Now, under inflammation, we have to dig a little bit deeper too, because why is there inflammation? Well, it could be food allergies or food sensitivities. It could be that constipation is causing an inflammation of the gut. And remember, the gut and the brain are very connected. It could be that there's a neurotransmitter imbalance. It could be that there is a mineral deficiency or imbalance. So here we get back to zinc and magnesium being super important. Of course, speech therapy can be a really effective tool when helping a child with echolalia. Now, it's interesting because, the speech therapist can help a child significantly, but if we ask those why questions, and if we stay curious and kind of dig a little deeper, get to the root cause, if we can help with, for instance, inflammation in the brain, the child is going to benefit so much more and so much quicker from something like speech therapy than they would if those underlying causes are not addressed. So it's not about one or the other. You either do speech therapy or you do this more natural functional medicine stuff. It's combined. It has to be used together. Well, thanks for spending a few minutes with me today learning more about echolalia. If your child has echolalia, I'm hoping that this gives you a few tools to use today and in the future that will help you both communicate better. Remember, be gentle with yourself. You're doing a great job.